Hey guys, what's up? Daniel here. Today we are talking about the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip. Now I've been using this device for about 24 hours now, a lot, just to get a lot out of it so I can then show you guys to see if it's worth the $1,400. Spoiler alert, it's not worth the $1,400. So if that's all you wanted to know, you can just click away. However, there's a lot of cool things with this device and also a lot of things that aren't that great that even if it was, $1,000 or something, maybe, it'd still be best to get an S20 or even S10 for that matter. So let's go ahead and get right into this. So one of the first things I want to get into right now is, of course, that folding aspect of it, the most important thing here, and it's that hinge that works really great. It's a nice tight hinge, which you either love or hate. I'm still conflicted by it. I don't think I like it. I would prefer something that as soon as I open it, it would flick open. I think that's my overall conclusion over the past 24 hours. It's just, I wish it would just flick open and just completely forget about the fact that I can split it into two and that I can have the camera and the viewfinder. Those are neat little tricks, but I think overall, it's just not something that I would find myself using like almost ever. I'm fine with taking the phone photos and stuff just like this and moving the phone up and down to get different angles. So it's not something I would use, even though it is a very neat feature and of course a really cool advertising aspect that they can use to get people to get it. Now I have been practicing over the past 24 hours how to open this thing quickly, and one of the things that I landed on is that you just put your finger right here or your thumb and then you just flick as hard as you can while holding the bottom down open. So I'll bring it out here because I can't do it over there. So you take it out of your pocket, you flick it, and then there you go, it answers the call. Surprisingly enough, you actually have to go into settings to enable the ability to answer a call as you open the phone, which should just be standard because it's so obvious, but I don't know, you have to go into settings and do that. And talking about settings, there are a couple of things that I ended up changing from the device as how it came, mainly because I didn't like a couple of the things when I was typing and moving things around. I would say that the most important thing is the keyboard itself, which if we just hit delete here, you can see that I've installed the Google keyboard. Then I've switched this height to like tall or something like that, just to make it a little bit taller. And it makes it a heck of a lot more comfortable than whatever Samsung shipped theirs with. And this just is a better keyboard overall. And it improved the experience quite a bit. Also, surprisingly, out of the box, you don't get the gestures for navigating throughout. You actually get the back buttons and stuff. And I can see why they did that. It's because these bezels right here are a little bit thick. And so they make it maybe possibly a little bit harder than usual to do these gestures and move things around. But overall, I definitely still just prefer this full screen look and aspect of it that you see right there. And it just works really well. And yeah, there are some times where like I'll do a gesture or something from the side and it doesn't recognize it. And I think you can actually increase the sensitivity for that. And I also changed in settings the speed of the animations. It was super slow to open and move things up. So you can see that things are just really snappy. Right from the box, that's something you have to change because it was super annoying to watch those animations pop up. Moving on to another important aspect is that crease in the middle, which of course is a talking point, and you can see it right there. It's definitely not super noticeable and not something that bothers you when you're using the phone. Even when you run your finger pass through it, it doesn't bother me at all. It's just a slight indentation and I'm fine with it. Now talking more about the screen, this is a 6.7-inch display. It's full HD. It looks really nice. It's nice and bright. The colors are pretty accurate for the most part. Haven't really encountered any issues where things are too much of one color. And they also do provide options in the settings to kind of tint the hues and stuff, which is nice. So overall, the display is very nice and you can see it right there. Things look really good and they're just overall nothing to complain about, and you won't be finding any pixels here. It just all looks really great. What's not great though is the single firing speaker that we have down here at the bottom, which is incredibly easy to mistakenly cover up, especially since the phone is so narrow. You kind of just put your hands and I'm already covering right there half of the speaker. So you have to watch out with that. And that is the only speaker. I've seen that Motorola also has one speaker, but it's like a very large speaker at the bottom, which probably makes up for having only one. But this does not. This sounds very bad. You like really want to use headphones with this device, which is a bit unfortunate because this means when you're playing games or anything, you're covering the speaker, moving your hand around. So you have to put headphones on. And talking about playing games, if you wanted to use this to play some games, maybe like Call of Duty or Minecraft, Fortnite. First of all, Fortnite runs really bad for some reason. Call of Duty runs perfectly on this, but I've experienced something that wasn't great and I wouldn't use this to play games at all. if ever, unless I'm really like feeling like playing a game. The screen size is great and things look super wide and super cool when playing. That is not a complaint. The complaint is that kind of plastic they put over the supposedly glass display is it provides a little bit too much resistance, especially when your hands start sweating. And you might be wondering, why would your hands start sweating in a mobile game? Well, if you're playing Call of Duty and you're really into it, this game is particularly stressful on the phone. And this top half of the phone gets super hot. Now we have 2 batteries on here, so I don't know if it's the battery that's getting hot, but something up here on the top half gets so hot enough to the point where it's uncomfortable to actually play and continue holding this device like this normally. So I'll end up having to shift like this or something like that, and I end up just hopping off. I only played like 1 game 2 different times on 2 different occasions because it just wasn't fun to play it. And the resistance from that plastic screen just made it even less fun to play it, because we've gotten used to the kind of the glass displays on others where your finger glides a little bit more smoothly on here than it does on this kind of slightly plasticky display. And it's hard to describe, but when you're playing it and moving back and forth only like this, it's kind of annoying and it's not great. But overall, it does run the game well, and things work nicely. And if so, we can just start a match just so I can show you. Hopefully we can get into something quickly while we talk about the camera, which the camera is very uneventful, nothing to write home about. It'll take pictures and they will look fine in most cases. Outdoors, they'll look better. Indoors, not so great, but you can get it to look fine. So yeah, don't expect anything. You have none of the S20 features. You don't get 8K recording. You don't get a better camera like that. The S20 is its own beast of a camera. This is not. This is still like S10, if not worse than that specs for the camera. So you can see that the game runs perfectly. I'm playing it through the camera, so I won't be shooting anyone or playing well, because there's some latency between the camera and what I see. Nope, well, we can't get a kill, but you can see that things run perfectly. And that ultra wide angle looks really, really cool when playing a game. So that's something to keep in mind, is just that resistance and the heat. It's already starting on the phone here on the left hand side. The right side remains cool, so I don't know what's on the left hand side that gets so hot, but that again is something to keep in mind with this device. And I'm actually really good at this game, trust me. It's just it's just looking through that camera that makes it a little difficult, but there you go. That is gaming on it. As far as other types of entertainment like movies and stuff, that is not going to be all that great either, unless you watch like an ultra or just a cinema, widescreen movie. Most of you are probably just watching on Netflix, right? So you go on Netflix and we open up an episode of The Office. You can see these very big black bars on the right and left side, and you can zoom in, but now you're losing quite a bit of that video of that movie that you're watching. So it's up to you really what you think about that. I think it's not great for this, and also with those speakers, you're gonna have to put headphones in. But at least there is headphones included in the box, so that's that. But there you go, that's some of that entertainment or media of sorts. Now, as a quick thing, you can of course also pin things to the top and the bottom, and let's do the camera, that should work. So we can open up 2, and you can have 2 things going at once. You could watch a video, scroll through something. Obviously, maybe in this case, it'd be the opposite, maybe looking at something and then the other thing at the top, but you get the gist of it. You can split it into 2 and use it however you want. So put a YouTube video up here, read some notes and stuff on here. I don't think the phone is quite big enough to enjoy both things, but you can do it if that's something that you're interested in. For me personally, this doesn't really work with my workflow at all, much at all. So I don't really see much of a use in folding the display and doing it like that, but you can if you like that. So I think overall, it's just really that folding factor that is the selling point to this. And it just doesn't open fast enough for my liking. I'm not a fan of that hinge, and I have to flick it open too hard where I feel like this phone might not last. So $1,400 depreciating at the average depreciation that Samsung devices depreciate, plus the fact that folding screens and everything are becoming increasingly popular and cheaper to manufacture. This just means that this device is just gonna burn money every month at an extreme rate if you pay $1,400 for it. So it's rather unfortunate in that case. So I would just stay away from it and hold on. If you really want this device, you can get it in 6 months for like $800, and you know, or just wait for cooler devices to come out. We'll see what Samsung does with the Galaxy Fold 2 and other devices that will continue to compete with this, because this is going to start becoming a thing now. And that's just a great thing. It's an overall great device, kind of for a first gen, possibly even second gen if you count the Fold from Samsung. But overall, it's a very nice device. It's just not priced appropriately, and that makes sense given the fact that it's quite a new device. Now, as some closing points, I do want to talk about the battery life. It's just okay. It'll last you the full day. Nothing spectacular. It's just all right. If you play games and stuff, it'll burn through it fast. Definitely not as efficient as an S10 or possibly the S20 that's coming out. This cover display on the front I found just incredibly not useful at all. It just doesn't really do much of anything since I have to double tap it and I can't leave it always on, which is also very unfortunate. The fingerprint sensor does open quite fast, and so does the face scan on here, so no issues with that. The 8 gigs of RAM in here, 256 gigabytes of storage are just enough. It's good enough specs for what it is to last a while. Overall, I found myself fidgeting with it whenever I had it, opening and closing it. So I think just from a durability standpoint and the fact that we just don't know how long these things are gonna last, I think it's also best to wait maybe 6 months or so. Some people that, you know, have the money to test it out, or other people that are just constantly testing it out just to see how long it's gonna last, to see what happens there, because $1,400 is a lot of money on spending on a phone that you don't know if it's gonna last you the year or 2 years that you want to have it. So who knows with that. And yeah, this is the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip. It's a fun phone, really cool phone. If it was just cheaper, I think it'd be something that would be worth considering depending on your workflow. One of the things that I did want to talk about and I almost missed is the fact that this does fit in your pocket very nice, depending on, you know, what type of jeans or what type of clothing you wear. So if you wear clothing with shorter pockets, this might actually come in handy because you can now fit it into that shorter pocket without it sticking out. If you wear long pockets like possibly me, then it doesn't matter to you, because now this phone's just gonna be thicker than this phone. So you're not saving any space or anything. But for people with shorter pockets or that put it in a purse sleeve or something, this actually works incredibly well. So that's something to keep in mind. This form factor might work really well for you, especially if you don't open your phone often and you just want to have something that you open from time to time that works well, does something well, and you happen to have the money. You know, in some cases, this might be a phone that works for you. It doesn't work for me, and I personally wouldn't recommend it, but that is the Galaxy Z Fold. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, Twitter, @RMRDNL, or comment down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Aside from that, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.